How's it going, everyone? My name is TheStarkz, and welcome back to another The Last of Us Factions video. Today, we're going to be discussing a little bit about the recent cancellation of The Last of Us Online, which was the standalone multiplayer game that Naughty Dog had been working on for the past 5 years. Now, this news happened on Thursday of this year, of course, just a few days ago. And it's upsetting. I mean, a lot of the community has voiced their concern. A lot of prominent creators in the space has voiced their concern and upset and cries regarding the Last of Us factions, as well as myself. I've spoken it here on YouTube, and I've spoke about it on twitch.tv on a stream that I did on Friday, just to honor and I guess in a way preserve the Last of Us factions, because there's only so long until Naughty Dog shuts off the servers for The Last of Us factions as well. But today I wanted to kind of go on to make a little bit of a push to Naughty Dog and PlayStation and help, I guess, encourage other creators, other fans, and people that were expecting The Last of Us Online to also do the same by sharing, content and reactions regarding The Last of Us Online's cancellation, but equally retweeting a thread that I did, which I'll post in the description below. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about Uncharted 4. And the context for Uncharted 4 is really interesting here, and I'll elaborate. So basically, in 2016, Naughty Dog released Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. And with that, it included the addition of multiplayer. Now, this wasn't previously known as far as I remember, but when it launched, fans who immersed themselves in the multiplayer, which was myself after I completed the story mode for Uncharted several days after I got it, was that the Uncharted component failed to have a public leveling progression system. And that leveling system, by public, I mean other players in the lobbies were unable to see your leveling system. So for instance, if I'm level 76, let's say, nobody else would be able to see that leveling, that level, except for me and I think your friends. But I could be wrong about that. Regardless, myself and others in the community, especially the Uncharted 4 multiplayer community, voiced our concern regarding that. And the concern was we wanted to brag about our ranks, basically. There's no other reason for it. But nonetheless, I remember going onto Twitter and tagging Anthony Newman, who addressed saying he was a bit confused by my complaint, saying that Uncharted 4 did have a leveling progression system. And I forget the context and what was said specifically, but I elaborated saying, basically fans wanted a public leveling system where others can see our progress and our skill in the game. And I think in general that decision was to discourage people from leaving the game. I think was one of the reasons they did that. But later on in that month, which I guess was May of 2016, I had the extreme opportunity of playing Uncharted 4's very own multiplayer with the one and only Vineet Agarwal and another developer alongside him. Now, Vineet is still employed at Naughty Dog, which is why I'm just referring to him in this video. But I had the pleasure of playing a few matches of Uncharted 4's multiplayer with Vineet and another developer, an ex-employee at Naughty Dog. And in that, I brought up the concern that fans had regarding the leveling system. I thought it was an appropriate time to ask because we were playing, we were indulged, and this was something that I knew I wanted the opportunity to talk to them about, and so I did. And I'm glad I did, because I feel like it changed Uncharted 4's multiplayer. And what I mean by that is the reaction was kind of surprised. They were, from what I recall, surprised that a lot of the community wanted that, because they initially thought a lot of the community didn't, or that they were kind of past that idea, from what I remember. But I do have a video that I made following that experience playing with Vineet Agarwal, which, like I said, is one of the developers at Naughty Dog still. And that video is called Uncharted 4 Multiplayer Leveling System at Naughty Dog Multiplayer Team, I think is what the video is called. And you can watch it if you want. I sound completely different in that video because I was much younger and I didn't, I just don't sound as mature as I do now. But I was much younger when I made that video. Literally, it was almost a decade ago. I guess in 2 years from now, it'll be a decade. So pardon me if I sounded a bit ridiculous in the video. But regardless, after we made that video, I can't remember how much longer after, but eventually, before, I want to say, August of 2016, Naughty Dog introduced the leveling system. It could have been after, but regardless, they introduced a public leveling system. It was bare bones, but it was a leveling system, and fans were satisfied. I was satisfied, and I felt like I impacted the community in a way that I never thought I could. And although I am a quite small creator in The Last of Us and Uncharted and PlayStation creator space, I still feel like I made a difference with and for the Uncharted 4 multiplayer community. And I don't know if any other creators had made videos and expressed their concern and amplified that concern to the point where Naughty Dog considered it, but if they did, that's cool. They helped support that decision for Naughty Dog to introduce the leveling system, or at least make it public, because it wasn't initially. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I want to make this video in a grave, desperate, I know this sounds ridiculous, but desperate attempt to convince PlayStation and Naughty Dog to go ahead with the continuation of The Last of Us Online. And this comes from a place of love, passion, dedication for Naughty Dog and PlayStation. I can't describe how disappointed I was when Naughty Dog released the information on Thursday, December 14th. I mean, I was absolutely crushed when I read the headline that, an update on The Last of Us Online, and that essentially it was canceled. I wanted to make this video and provide an opportunity to go over some of the reaction for The Last of Us Online's cancellation. I know SanchoWest, a great friend of mine, great content creator. If you've never heard of him and you're watching this still, please do yourself a solid and go to SanchoWest's page on YouTube or Twitch. He absolutely deserves the praise. But he made his reaction video, and he, SanchoWest kind of embodies the kind of the persona of The Last of Us Online and what it could be and what it is. This family-friendly streamer, content creator who really made a good name for himself on The Last of Us Online, and in many ways has encouraged me as a creator as well. And him and I have had some great conversations, both on off stream and on stream. But I want to just applaud him for his reaction, because it was genuine, just as mine and so many others in the community. But I also want to talk a little bit about the Naughty Dog developers. And then I also want to talk about Neil Druckmann a bit here, and then I want to talk about Tom Henderson, who I've referenced on this channel a few times. He is, I guess, kind of like a leaker, a guy that kind of amplifies leaks in a way. But some of the reaction I'm seeing from the developers here. So Vinit Agarwal, like I said, game director at Naughty Dog, kind of quote tweeted a bunch of developers who are whether still present at Naughty Dog or who have since left the company, and he was basically quote tweeting them. One Naughty Dog developer named Carl Morley, for instance, who's the principal game director or designer at another company, but previously worked at Naughty Dog for a number of years, saying that he's absolutely gutted by the news, right? And that and gutted for all the awesome people I worked with this on. I learned more on this project than any other in my career, and had more fun playing this game than any other multiplayer game before and since. And I think that's to me that's crazy, because this is the consensus that I'm seeing from a lot of developers or former developers. And Vinit Agarwal said, loved working with you on this game. Thanks for the great convos over the years. Learned a lot from you. And that's just one reaction, but we have another developer here who I don't think, or actually is still an associate producer at Naughty Dog. Now, it's interesting because I don't think Naughty Dog had a lot of these producers. I think these are recent, like no more than 5 years ago. I think they started to hire a lot of these producers, or like actually make a role. But this person, Abby, on Twitter, That's so funny considering Abby, well, I think you all know. But this person quote tweeted Naughty Dog, the official an update for The Last of Us Online, saying, "I'm incredibly devastated by this news, but I couldn't be more proud of the team for all the hard work and determination put into this project. Loved every minute working on this project. Long live The Last of Us Online." And that gives me no hope whatsoever that we'll ever see the continuation of The Last of Us Online. But I want to give everyone an opportunity, like I said earlier, to amplify this video and others' reactions, retweet the thread that I have in the description below, and like it, to encourage Naughty Dog and PlayStation to reconsider their decision. Another person, Gabby, who I've spoke with before on Twitter, like on just regular tweets, saying, "I spent my last year at Naughty Dog working on building up the QA team for this, and a lot of hard work was put into it by the Canal. Sending love to the dogs in the light of this news." And Vineet said, "You were an integral part of the team during your time at Naughty Dog. Thank you." There's especially one more, or a couple more that I'm going to read. There's another one here from a developer, QA Dev Support at Naughty Dog, who stated that, "While I'm so incredibly sad to see something that I worked on for almost a year and a half come to end, I had such an amazing time working on this game every day, and I will treasure these moments forever." That's from Sinim, I think is how you pronounce it. And of course, Vineet said, "Thank you for being a member of this team." There's one more interesting, or a few more reactions. I guess I can't find it here, but there was one tweet that I read, and I think I might have liked it, so I'm going to try and look for this. But at one point, somebody said, "I worked from this project between February of 2022 up until yesterday." Yesterday referring to the day that The Last of Us update was posted, which was, like I said, Thursday, December 14th. Actually, I found it here. I guess Natty is his name, or Nady. He's a technical designer at Naughty Dog. And he stated, "I worked on this," referring to The Last of Us Online, "I worked on this from the time I was hired in February of 2022 until yesterday," which is December 14th, by the way, the day Naughty Dog posted this update. "It's absolutely been the highlight of my career and will always be a very special project for me. So it goes. A sad day, but very bright horizons ahead for sure." I don't know what could be more bright than The Last of Us Online, in my opinion, but hey, I'm sure Naughty Dog is cooking, right? But the point is, this is devastating, and the devs are just as crushed and upset as the fans, because the developers are just as fans as we are, and we have to respect that, right? I know a lot of people don't give developers a lot of credit in the community, and I'm not referring to the Last of Us community, I just mean the broader scale of the community, but we have to give credit where credit is due, and that's to the wonderful developers who have poured years into this project, or more, right? And yeah, I'm bummed, I'm upset, I'm pissed that PlayStation executives and higher-ups decided to make this decision, and I think in some capacity, maybe even Neil Druckmann was a part of that decision. Whether or not he was, I don't know, but he is the co-studio head and head of creative Naughty Dog, executive producer for The Last of Us HBO show, which is irrelevant to The Last of Us Online, but nonetheless, he is a higher up at Naughty Dog. He might not be a PlayStation corporate, so I don't think, he had the sole vote or anything like that, but it's interesting that he's been silent about it on Twitter. I know recently with everything going on in the world, I think he's just been a little bit more suppressed and eased on Twitter. And I hate to overanalyze, but I can't help but think he might have had a say in this decision. I'm sure he did, because he's the co-studio head at Naughty Dog and the head of creative. And one thing I wanted to address was Tom Henderson, who... like I said, I've referenced some of his stuff in my YouTube videos, but basically he's the owner of Insider Gaming IG and an unannounced project. And this person has done in some way mentioned leaks and stuff, and he's been right a few times. But somebody made a post saying, "So Naughty Dog canceled The Last of Us Factions because it would have required their entire studio to support it. Fair enough, but shouldn't they have just hired more people?" I do remember people advising to, quote, just organically grow your studios. Perhaps it doesn't work like that. And Tom Henderson quote tweeted talking about economics. I guess this guy has a bachelor's degree in economics, but he made some good points saying, think about the economics at a base level. If the whole studio needed to work on The Last of Us multiplayer, that's 400 plus employees. If the average salary is $50K, that's $20 million a year in salary alone. And I don't know if that's actually true. I'm sure it is. I'm not great at math, but that's a lot of money regardless, right? He continues saying, is TLU multiplayer going to sell 250,000 battle passes a quarter at $20 each over multiple years to cover the base cost? I really do doubt it, and they probably did too. And that sounds, I mean, if you look at if you analyze the costs associated to operating this production, yeah, any businessman would be like, it might not be a good endeavor. However, I beg to differ. And the reason I do so is because I have full confidence that The Last of Us IP is one of, if not PlayStation's and Naughty Dog's specifically, biggest intellectual property ever. I have no doubt about that. And I have full confidence and belief that Naughty Dog could have pulled this off. Right? And so I replied on that tweet saying, maybe not. Maybe referring to maybe they didn't have the money to cover that base cost. Which is why instead The Last of Us Online should have released free for PlayStation 5 users for about a month to honor the fans. Because I think initially for a Battle Pass content game that The Last of Us Online apparently was going to be, it was most likely going to be a free game anyway. So instead you make it free for a month for PlayStation 5 users and change that model. Right, and then you have the base price increased to $30 to $50 for PC users, and then make that the base for PlayStation 5 users after the month has expired. Content for the Battle Pass could be cheaper for all users too. I explained, and I said that I'm pissed regardless of this decision. And then I also added that I'm not convinced that at no point were these economics considered for The Last of Us Online, and as I said on my tweet, I've addressed this on my YouTube channel before in some capacity, as I am doing right now. And I added, that a part of this community is hurt. I'm hurt. I'm still extremely bummed by this news. Like there's nothing that'll. I don't care if Naughty Dog is making The Last of Us Part 3 if it doesn't have multiplayer. Like, I will support the game. I will be hyped for the game, but I was looking so very much forward to The Last of Us Online, The Last of Us Factions, that I would much prefer that over The Last of Us Part 3. And so I'm still in that phase of like disbelief where it's like there's no way Naughty Dog canceled The Last of Us Online, right? But they did. And although I have some optimism that it'll come back, that we'll see it in some capacity, a part of me is like, I don't think we ever will. And that's what sucks about it. That's what sucks. And so the reason I mentioned the Uncharted 4 stuff and the multiplayer having leveling system after I spoke with some devs and made a video on it, and after others in the communities mentioned that, the reason I referenced the reaction from Naughty Dog associates and others in the community, like SanchoWest, for instance, is because I think we as a community have the power to do something here. I genuinely believe that. And the thread I'm referring to on Twitter, I'll mention this before I wrap it up. And you can refer to the link in the description below called the tweet, The Last of Us Online tweet. Which is, and I say this with so much respect, admiration for The Last of Us, Naughty Dog, PlayStation, and every developer that's poured their life and soul into this game and more, is I adore The Last of Us Factions multiplayer, and I will continue to play it until Naughty Dog takes the servers offline. I very much know that The Last of Us Online was shaping up to be a great experience, and I'm bummed we won't play it. In some way, I'll continue to honor the game and make content for it on YouTube in any way I can. In 2016, like I mentioned earlier, I played a few hours of Uncharted 4's multiplayer with Vinny Dargawal. We spoke for a bit, and I brought up the topic of the level progression systems that Uncharted 4's multiplayer initially did not have. And by leveling, I mean public leveling system. Together as a community, we made Uncharted 4 have a public leveling system. I believe that in this very moment in time, together we as a community can revitalize The Last of Us Online. Does The Last of Us Online need money to cover costs? I doubt it, but okay. I'll bite. We'll generate a GoFundMe, right? Does the title require playtesters for volunteer work? Sign me up. I'll playtest the game for free as long as you pay for my ticket to California, because I'm not paying $500 to go to California. As long as you pay for my ticket, I'll be there to playtest the game and playtest it as long as you want me to. I'm no stranger to 12-hour shifts. Trust me. Does the title need a voice? Because I'll give one, even though my voice is small at times. 2023 has already been a challenging year, and a challenging year for all. And in my opinion, it's hard to end it off with the news of the cancellation of The Last of Us Online. The community will never forget this, and although this decision was hard for Naughty Dog themselves, the community cries in a desperate attempt for Naughty Dog and PlayStation to continue the project in some capacity. I haven't always had the biggest voice in the community, but I'd like to encourage others as well as creators in the Last of Us faction space to retweet, like this thread and this YouTube video in an attempt to continue, or rather convince PlayStation and Naughty Dog continue The Last of Us Online. Loved, your Last of Us factions fans. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say in today's video. If you've made it this far, I appreciate it. You can let me know in the comment section below what you think about The Last of Us factions, what it means to you, what you think Naughty Dog might do regarding The Last of Us Online in the future, because I do think we'll see it in some shape or form. And do me a solid if you can. I mean, if you're a fan of The Last of Us factions, I consider subscribing, because I cover it quite often on my channel here, and I love The Last of Us factions. I think I'm level 600 on that game, and I am going to try my best to preserve this game and honor it until Naughty Dog shuts off the servers, because if we won't get The Last of Us Online, I have to honor it in some way, and I'm not just going to let it die. I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like this video, and like I said, share it to your friends, your family, your babysitter, okay, or your ex-girlfriend, your ex-boyfriend, whoever you need to. Share this video to all that you can and all that will listen, and ask them to also retweet the Twitter thread so Naughty Dog and PlayStation can see it, so their PR team can see it, because I don't think this is right. I really don't. For now, that's all I have to say. Again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I have been TheStarkz. Peace.